Good morning and happy Vlogmas day 12. Today is Thursday, the 12th of December, and I'm feeling very festive today. I've got my new Minnie Mouse Christmas shirt on, and I have some new earrings in as well. These are the ones that came with my Mickey and Minnie earrings. They're just the holly and berries, and yeah, I'm feeling festive. I've just edited the vlog from yesterday where I made the little wooden craft fabric tree things. I'm just getting it uploading now. Today we're going to do some more crafts. We're going to make something very Christmassy, and it's going to be made with fabric. I'm really quite excited to make this one. I did a demonstration at work making this and it turned out really well. I'm like, I gotta do this for Vlogmas, so that's what we're gonna do. So what we will be making today is called a braided Christmas wreath, and this is what it looks like. Oh, so this pattern is from the Spotlight website. It will be linked below if you would like to give it a go. I am doing a slight variation in this one, so you're more than welcome to follow my version if you just want it to be a little bit more simpler, or you can just follow the pattern and make a beautiful wreath for yourself. So I took some time to choose out my fabrics, and I'm going for something a little bit non-traditional. I'll show you. So I'm going with an Australian native vibe. So I have this beautiful Jocelyn Prouse fabric that I got the other day from work, and it's just got all the Australian animals on it and flowers and nuts and things, and I'm pairing it with a black print and then this Christmas candy cane fabric that I have been using for just binding, but it is a Christmas fabric, and I thought let's put a little bit of Christmas in, but mainly just use normal fabrics. So those three fabrics are going to be for the plait. In this version here, they've actually done half of the wreath in 3 prints and then the other half in another 3 prints, so you can sort of see the join there. I'm actually just going to do the whole wreath out of just all 3 fabrics. I'm going to skip the step where you join these 2 together. And then for the ribbon part, you see how they're 2 different fabrics? I've decided to use these 2. I think it matches pretty well. So the purple and the pink spot is going to be this reddy bit, and then this one will be for the under part here. So we'll just see how it goes. I particularly love mixing different prints and patterns and textures together. Like, this is totally my aesthetic. I love doing a print and then matching it with a spot and a stripe, just having things that really clash and making sure they sort of match color wise kind of thing. It's usually the color that kind of ties them together. So that's what we're going to be working on. This is what we're going to make, and yeah, we'll see how it goes. So before we get started on our project today, I thought we'd do the advent calendar, because I said in yesterday's vlog that I'll try and do it at the beginning of the vlog. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to do this first. So we need to open door 12. We're going to find it first. Where is it? Ah, there it is. It's a big one. Oh, I hope it's something exciting. It could be those needles that fell, yeah. John James needles. What are these? They're milliners. They're a size 5. They're just basic needles. I need some new needles. That should come in handy. They're really long as well. Okay, advent calendar is done for the day. That was nice and quick, wasn't it? I think what I'll do now, I might have a quick bite for lunch, because I don't know how long this is going to take, and it might sort of like take all afternoon and I'll forget to eat. Yeah, I'll eat and then we'll do some sewing. Okay, so I think I'm now ready to start. I've had lunch, so my belly is nice and full and I've got energy to sew, to do things. So I'm just going to quickly show you things that you need if you yourself would like to make this beautiful braided Christmas wreath. So of course you'll need the pattern, and as I mentioned at the start, the link to this pattern is in the description. You will need 3 different fabrics for the wreath and then 2 different fabrics for the bow. just there. You'll also need some hobby fill or some polyester fill for when we stuff it. You also need a stuffing tool of some sort. I have a chopstick just to make that task a little bit easier. Scissors, pins, rulers, blade, and of course you'll need a sewing machine. Cool. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to press my fabrics. You don't need to press the whole lot, just a small amount, because we're only cutting one strip from each fabric. That's all I need, not much. All of my fabrics have been pressed. Now I'm going to cut them into the strips that we need. So the 3 fabrics, 1, 2, 3 that I'm using for the wreath, I'm going to cut just one 5-inch strip from each of those fabrics. And then these 2 fabrics that I'm using for the ribbon, I'm going to cut one 3-inch strip from each of them. Okay, so all my fabrics have been cut. Again, the fabrics that I'm using for the wreath part, I've cut just one strip at 5 inches by the width of fabric. And then for the ribbon part of the wreath, I've just cut one strip of each of those fabrics at 3 inches by the width of fabric. So I'm going to put these 2 to the side and we'll do that at the end. And then with these strips, we're going to turn them into long skinny tubes. So to do that, I'm going to fold it in half, right sides together. It's a bit hard doing it with one hand. I'll line up the raw edges on this side, and what I'm going to do is back stitch just here at the start, go down this way here, and then go all the way along the length of this strip using, of course, a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And then once we get to the opposite end, I'm just going to finish with a back stitch, leaving this end open, so then we can turn it right side out and then stuff it. So all 3 of my strips have been sewn together, and I actually just sewed a 1/4 inch in from the selvage. So what I'm going to do now is just cut that down to a 1/4 inch seam, snip the corners, and then pull them all the right side out. Easy peasy. Right, so I'm ready to turn my little tubes right side out, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use my little chopstick stuffing tool thing, and we're just going to push it right side out. I'm sure and I know that there is an easier way to do this, but at this very moment I can't think of how to do it. So I'm doing it this way. So I'm just pushing it all the way through. Oh no, this is actually working quite good. Nice and easy. This looks so wrong, but now the end is there and we can just go whoosh. It's the right side out. Just get those corners nice and sharp. Don't have to press this because we're going to just stuff them, and by stuffing them it's just going to plump them out. I'll do the next 2 and then we'll start stuffing. Oh no, I've lost it. Come out. Oh man, the chopstick's stuck in there. Come on. There we go. We got it. So before we start stuffing them, what we need to do is turn over this closed end, turn it over 3/4 of an inch, and then we're just going to pin it into place. Like so. What that does is once it's all stuffed, it will leave this little end part once we've unpinned it without any stuffing, so that it will be easier for us to sew all of the 3 tubes together, and then we can start plaiting it. You'll sort of understand that step once we get to it. So just do that to all of the closed ends of each of the strips. So all 3 closed ends of each of my tubes have been pinned. Don't worry if they're not exactly the same size, as long as there's just that little bit of space left to sew them together once they're stuffed. So now it comes to stuffing our tubes, and this is where the hobby fill comes into play. Now there is a trick when it comes to stuffing the tubes. You don't want to be stuffing them too firm. You want to keep them quite sort of like soft type of thing, because if they're too firm then they won't be able to plait as easily. If they are still just that slightly bit soft, then they'll be a lot easier to plait. So just keep that in mind when you're doing it. So let's get stuffing. So this is a 200-gram bag. This will do the whole wreath. You might have just like the smallest amount left, but you should be able to use all of this. When I was doing this demonstration at work, the thing that I took away from it is you need to sort of do little bits at a time. This part is possibly the most fiddliest and the most time consuming, so you just have to be really patient, just a little bit at a time, putting it in and then just pulling it through to the end, and just keeping it, like I said, nice and soft, not too firm. Just continually sort of check its movement. You just want it to be nice and fluid, so it will be easy to plait once we get to that stage. So just be patient with this step. Put some nice music on. I'm going to listen to some Christmas music on Spotify because that is one thing that I am absolutely loving at the moment. Yeah, that's my tip. Just go with the flow, take your time, and I will come back to you once all of my tubes have been stuffed. Okay, so all of my 3 tubes have been stuffed. It took me a good hour or so to do this, and they're just at a point where they're flexible, so they're still squishy and I can bend them really quite easily. Now I didn't fill all of these up. I've left about this much at the tails, so that as we start sort of plaiting it, if any sort of extra stuffing comes out or moves, we've got that sort of room to do it. And I tell you what, you definitely need a stuffing tool of some sort to help you get all of these stuffed. Just made the job a whole lot easier. Next step that we're going to do is I'm going to undo the pins here, and I'm going to stack one on top of the other and then sew all 3 of them together. I'll show you. So I'm going to undo each one, and it's just left me with an end with no stuffing, so we just take them all out. So I'm just going to put one on top of the other like so. It does get a little bit awkward, just take your time. Just make sure they're all lined up like so, and we'll just pin them to place. And then just with the sewing machine, I'm just going to do a quick stitch along here, back stitch it of course so it stays in place, so that all 3 layers are sewn together. I've just taken that safety pin out and I've just pinned it with normal pins because it's just going to be a little bit easier to take them out and sew. So that's now what it kind of looks like. I tried to do a 1/4 inch seam, but it was a little bit difficult because it's a little bit awkward with all this stuff here. So now we're going to get plaiting. So I'm just going to start plaiting these together until we get about 2 inches from the end. So once our plait's together, we sort of bring it around into a circle shape. And that is our wreath. Pretty cool, huh? This is what I have left over. Now that we have these ends, I'm just going to trim them down so that we have about 2 inches of just fabric without any of the stuffing. So once I've done that, we'll fold the edges over and then sew them together like we did the top. Okay, so there are my ends all sort of chopped off. What I did is I just measured 2 inches from where the stuffing is, and then I folded the ends on inside themselves and then pinned them into place. So now what we're going to do is just do a quick stitch on the sewing machine to close these ends off, and then the next step that we'll do is I'll sort of replat it nice and tight again, and then we'll get it to the point where each one of these will sort of overlap to its natural end, and then we sew them together like we did at the top so that they're all together and safe in their plait. I actually don't know whether to be brave enough and just sew them all together straight away. Maybe I should do that just to sort of save faffing. Yeah, I might do that actually. So that's where they all sort of meet up at the end. I'm just going to pin them all together and then just do one stitch just to keep them all in place. If you do sort of botch up this end, it's not going to be the end of the world. Just do it the best you can, because it's all going to be sewn together and then hidden with the ribbon. So this is the end of my plait. These were the ends of my tubes, and I've just pinned them all together at their natural end. So I'm just going to do a quick stitch along this part here just to stitch them all together. Back stitch at the start and at the end so that the stitch won't come apart. And then we'll be going on to the next step. And there's our edge all stitched. Just be careful when doing this part, it is really thick. You've got lots of layers there with your seam allowances on each side as well. So just feed it through the machine as delicately and slowly as you can, and just let the machine do its work. That is a good looking plait, may I just say. Now we have these two ends. Just gonna kind of flatten this out as much as possible. This was the end that we started with, and then this is the end we finished with. We're just gonna overlap them like this. This part you're going to need to do by hand, because there's no way I will be able to get this in the sewing machine. Just secure them together with some pins, and then just simply stitch it together the best you can with a hand needle and thread. There we go. Okay, so I've very crudely sewn that together, but like I said, no one's going to see it because it's going to be trapped under the ribbon. But there is our wreath all done. Now, if you're not really happy with the way like it's shaped or anything like that, you can just sort of like, you know, pull it apart a little bit and rearrange it and make it look a little bit more presentable. I think I like this side better. So that is our lovely wreath there. Now that we've done that, we are going to do the ribbon as our last step, and then it's all done. I think it looks better in real life than on the camera. Yeah, it'll look good once it's got the ribbon on, definitely. So those are our pieces for our ribbon. We'll see how that goes. So first of all, we're going to lay one down like so. Lay the other one on top, and it's nice and even. Just quickly pin that into place just here so that they stay in place. And then with your ruler, I'm going to place this 45-degree line along the bottom edge of the ribbon here. So this is my 45-degree line running along here. And I'm putting the corner of the ruler just before where the selvage starts, so that we'll cut that off. We just want to cut an angle here, cut that off. So we now have a nice lovely angle here, and this is going to make that nice lovely sharp point that, you know, a nice cut ribbon usually has. I'm going to turn it around, putting two pins right here in the center. I can tell it's the center because there's still a fold line here. This is where we're going to start and end our stitching, and we're going to leave a hole here so we can flip it right side out. But first we're going to go to the other end. And I'll just do it exactly the same way as before, with the 45-degree line running along the bottom, and then we just cut it off. Just pop a pin in just to hold it into place. And now we can sew it together. just sewn along the edges with a 1/4 inch seam. I've left the opening here, and this is how the end looks here, so that should come out with a nice point. Before I turn it through, I'm just going to snip these corners so that the points come out nice and easy, and then we'll pull it through and then give it a really good press, and then we're going to just top stitch it closed, and then it's ready to tie on to the wreath. Okay, so the ribbon is all done. I'm really happy with it. I love how it's like the double-sided type spots and colours. So now we're just going to tie it to the top of the wreath where I've very crudely sewn it together by hand. Got to decide which way I like. Do I want that to be the front or that one? I think I like that. So now we just tie it on. Get that even. Make sure it's covering a little join. Yay! Oh, that looks really cool. It's going to take a bit just to faff over it, just to make it look a bit, you know, nice like the picture. Oh, look how cute that is! Yay! I was so worried that the colours and the prints were going to be too much, but I actually really like that. Yay! It looks super cute. Happy days! So it is actually really quite solid. Like if I leave it there, oh no, maybe not. It looks really cool. I'm so happy with that. If you want to have it so that it's hanging up, obviously you can sew something to the back. But in the picture, it's just placed on a shelf. So I think that's what we might do. Just place it somewhere and it looks good. So super cute. I'm really happy with that. So let me know if you're going to give this a go. If you do, just take your time, print out the pattern, read it. I've tried to follow it to the letter as much as I could, but I've sort of just made it the way that I want to with that as a guide. Give it a go if you want. Mix and match your fabrics. Be as creative and as expressive as you want. And yeah, send me a picture if you do make this at 3 3/4 on Instagram and Facebook. And yeah, have fun making. So I'm going to end today's vlog here. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope I've inspired you with today's lovely sewing Christmas craft. And I will see you again tomorrow for Vlogmas Day 13. Tomorrow is Friday the 13th. Ooh, I mean, I'm not suspicious or anything like that, but I thought I'd mention it. But anyway, I will see you tomorrow. Bye!